With the Oklahoma City Thunder recently beating the Portland Trailblazers, their record now sits at a mind blowing 20 wins and just one loss, making them just the fourth team ever to start the season off this hot. But the most shocking part, they've done almost all of this without their All NBA second option, Jalen Williams. So if OKC is this dominant while not fully healthy, still incredibly young, and coming off of a 68 win season and the championship, how much scarier can this team actually get? And is it fair to say that the 2025-26 Oklahoma City Thunder might be the greatest team in NBA history? Now, obviously, the biggest engine behind OKC's dominance this season is the reigning MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Now, say whatever you want about his playstyle or the foul baiting, but the truth is, Shai is one of the most unstoppable offensive players on the planet. He can score at all three levels, his handle is elite, he controls pace better than almost any guard alive, and his ability to draw fouls might be among the best we've ever seen. To most NBA fans watching Shai play, they'll just tell you straight up that he's just foul baiting every other possession. But to other fans, primarily ones in OKC, they'll tell you it's a legitimate tactic and something only the best offensive players can truly master. But regardless of which side you're on, the reality is when SGA gets downhill, defenders are in a lose-lose situation. Play loose on him, and he'll glide into a mid-range that he has perfected over the years. You play up on him, and he'll turn the slightest bump into two free throws. But it's not just a trick, it's a weapon, and it forces defenses to guard him with a level of caution that no other player in the league has. Shai doesn't just draw fouls, he bends the game around himself, and that's what makes him so dangerous on the offensive end. This season, Shai is averaging 7.1 free throws per game, which is actually below his career average of 8.6. And even with fewer whistles than usual, he's still putting up 32.6 points per game on fewer shot attempts than last season while being more efficient. And the craziest part is, he barely plays in the fourth quarter of games because OKC is already up by 25 points by the time the fourth quarter rolls around. And Shai's offensive production doesn't just come with scoring. He also leads his team in assists a game with 6.6, and he's become one of the best two-way guards in basketball. Most fans might not even know this, but last season, Shai finished top 10 in Defensive Player of the Year voting, and he might do it again. He's averaging 1.6 steals and 0.8 blocks per game, and he holds a defensive rating of 104.3, the third best among all guards. And the only players he's trailing are AJ Mitchell and Cason Wallace, who just so happen to be on the same team as him. And this is really where OKC becomes their most dangerous. Their defense isn't just one or two guys carrying the load. It's a full system of long, disciplined, switchable defenders. The numbers back it up as well. OKC has the best defensive rating in the league this season with 103.6, easily taking the top spot and being ahead of the second place Rockets by a wide margin, being by far the best defensive team so far, and they're top 3 in opponent field goal percentage at the rim, top 3 in deflections, and top 5 in defensive rebounds. Every possession feels like playing in quicksand against his team. And that leads to all the other key players on this roster, like Chet Holmgren. Now, Chet's game has been pretty much the same from last season, except so far this season, he's been way more efficient. He's averaging 18 points per game, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, and 1.5 blocks, shooting 55% from the field and 35% from 3. He has a box plus minus of 2.6, putting him in the same tier as guys like Paolo Banchero and Evan Mobley. Chet is also 6th in defensive win shares, only behind other Thunder players, excluding Scotty Barnes. Shout out Scotty. And Chet has just overall been a great interior defender. Chet is basically a cheat code. He's a 7-footer who can defend like prime Kevin Garnett and shoot like a guard. And obviously people do make the comparison to Wemby, and he might not be as good as Wemby, but that doesn't mean Chet isn't a great player, because he is. And then there's Jalen Williams, OKC's missing piece. And remember, OKC went 18-1 without him. And now last year, Jalen Williams, he averaged 21, 5, and 5 on an elite 48, 36, 79 percentages. he was one of the most efficient, high usage wings in the NBA. And when he's healthy, OKC adds another guy who can score at all three levels, defend multiple positions, and create offense when Shea sits. Him being out should have mattered, but OKC still looked unstoppable without him. And now that he's back in the lineup, it's only a matter of time before this team takes another leap. And now the last player I want to talk about is Cason Wallace. He has been one of the most underrated defenders in the league. His defensive stats are absurd for a point guard. He's second in the entire league in defensive rating with 104.3, making him statistically one of the best defensive guards in the entire NBA, single-handedly locking down the opposing team's best perimeter player, and he's second in the league in steals per game with 2.2, and he barely fouls either, making him elite on the defensive end. Pair that with a knockdown jump shot, and you have arguably the best 3-and-D player in the entire league. I think the best way to describe Cason Wallace, imagine Drew Holiday if he was more efficient and never made mistakes on defense, which Drew Holiday rarely does that anyway. But it puts into perspective how good Cason Wallace is. I could go on and on for each player on this team, all the way down to like the 13th man in the rotation, because that's how deep this team is. And to think that this OKC team has the rights to the Clippers 2026 first round pick from the Paul George trade all the way back in 2019 is absurd, especially in a draft that's said to be even better than the 2025 draft, which was called generational. Mix that with the fact that the Thunder are on pace to have a 78-4 record to end the year, which would absolutely shatter the 2016 Warriors record of 73 wins, and that this team is still developing. We might need to have a good conversation about this Thunder team being the greatest team we have ever seen in NBA history. Now with that, guys, that's the end of this video. If you made it this far in the video, I truly do appreciate you. And if you enjoyed the video, please be sure to check out my last video where I went over the hot start to the Detroit Pistons and how they've completely flipped the narrative on their organization. Make sure you guys like and subscribe and all that. And with all that said, that's it for me, and I'll catch you on the next video. Peace.